I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact focused on personal growth, my Knowledge Workbook series and Creative Healing course can help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about, do people leave because they feel shame, guilt, or unworthy?
They definitely do.
You know, sometimes when people break up with us, we don't know if they're being honest. We're trying to figure out, is this the real reason they're ending the relationship or is it just BS? Mm-hmm. You know, you're trying to figure out, I don't know if I should believe these reasons or if there's, you know, just someone else that they'd rather date.
Right. We wonder if there's something harder for them to say that they're not saying. That maybe what their reason is just a cop-out instead of saying the real thing, which might be confrontational, which might seem negative, or they're afraid of hurting you by saying whatever the real thing might be.
Yeah. And, you know, that's one of the things that we talk about, or I do at least a lot in my coaching calls. I'll be like, I think these reasons are real. Like, this feels real to me. I don't think there's any BS going on here.
Right. Because we do hear so many reasons for breakups, right? So we're able to kind of sort through what are some reasons where we can see some real evidence behind it versus what are some reasons where the actions that you see during the relationship and during the breakup are so mismatched with that.
Yeah. So today I have an email coaching with somebody that's wondering if this is a real thing. So they said, hi, Coach Craig and team.
Oh,
your team.
Part of the team.
We always joke about that too. It's like an inside joke that we have.
It is actually. Whenever there's an issue, I'm just the
She's
team.
like the team.
The makeup team, the audio-visual team.
We've had so many, like, I mean, that started like right when you came on board. We had like 15 different teams, like for Victoria, as soon as she came on board.
My resume looks fantastic.
It's unbelievable. It's pretty much made up, but
Jack
it's unbelievable.
Of all trades, you know?
Like the bulk
made
of
up.
it.
They're real skills.
No,
you know?
but like we'll be like the plumbing team. I think we put you on one time, or you helped me with the light box display, and you were in charge of that. That was a team you're on. If you've ever looked at my Instagram, you might see like some of the Christmas things that I had with the Christmas display in my house. It looks really cool, and Victoria helped me set that up.
With that. It's true.
So
it's true.
She would just constantly get a new team that she was assigned to. So your team again.
All right,
somehow he knew.
Part of the team, part of the crew.
I'm looking for some professional insight into a recent breakup that I'm struggling to fully understand that has left me feeling unsettled. I'm in my early 20s, and my ex is a few years younger than me. We're not married, have no children, and we're not living together. We first met online in the summer of 2023 and developed a deep emotional bond over the course of 14 months before meeting in person in September of 2024.
Okay,
so wow. So over a year, they were just talking online, I guess. That's interesting. The connection felt overwhelming, but very real. She asked me out within a day of meeting. From early on, she was extremely affectionate and emotionally attached. She often struggled with separation and would tell me things like, please don't leave. During the relationship, she lived part-time at university a few hours away and part-time at her family's home, which was about 4 hours away. I was the one that traveled the most. So sometimes what we see is when one person is doing the bulk of the traveling, they're the one that's more invested in the situation. So you got to consider little things like that. During the summer of 2025, I stayed at her family's home almost every weekend and met her parents, which was a very positive experience for both of us. The two problems in the relationship were unresolved trauma. Prior to our relationship, she had experienced a highly traumatic event where she attempted to revive a friend who had been murdered. Oof. So we're talking about a major trauma. That would be absolutely horrible.
Right. And when it's with a friend, you know, you face your mortality in a different way versus when it's, losing somebody else in life who might be older of age or who may have been sick for a while. It sounded like this may have been something unexpected, and to witness a friend that might have been closer to her age going through something like that can be really scary. There's levels to that type of trauma.
Well, not only was the friend murdered, but she tried to revive the friend. Oof. So that's even worse. Mm-hmm. I mean, it'd be horrible enough to lose a friend like that, but then to be the one that found them and trying to revive them, oh my gosh, that would just be awful. I had a friend that was, hit by a car and killed, and you know how bad that was for me. That was brutal. And so I can only imagine it is something that feels even worse than that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really horrible. Severe anxiety and self-worth issues. She frequently expressed that she didn't deserve me, felt like a burden, and believed she shouldn't be in a relationship. So I suspect that because she was probably feeling sad or depressed often, or, distant because she was thinking about the trauma and what happened with her friend, it probably made her feel like, I can't really give my partner what they need. I'm not in a good place, and so I'm not really giving this relationship what it deserves.
Yeah. And her having witnessed what she had witnessed, I wonder if she's going through some kind of survivor's guilt. I know a lot of times with the grief, there can be this feeling of, why was it them and not me? You're missing that person that you lost so much that, you're saying, I wish it would have been me instead of them, because you're, feeling that compassion for them. So I don't know what exactly she's going through with that grief, but I wonder if some of that is leaking out into the relationship. And we do see a lot of breakups happen around grief just in general. So it can be something that's very overwhelming, that can definitely impact relationships.
Yeah, I feel like she would feel like that because she's not at her best, that she's kind of being a burden in this situation. But we're dealing with a horrible, horrible trauma in this particular situation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on here. She experienced 2 emotional breakdowns within 5 months, yet she always remained loving, affectionate, and emotionally bonded. It was clear to both of us that the love was genuine. After returning to university, she experienced another traumatic incident. While out with friends, she was left alone and isolated by a man who coercively prevented her from leaving and then sexually assaulted her. For extra context, her friend had ditched her for another guy, and the same guy ditched my girlfriend's friend and then circled back around to isolate my girlfriend. I think she was maybe very drunk and vulnerable. I don't think she did anything like flirt or anything like that. She would never take kindly to being approached while out and about, and she was very afraid of most men.
And I'll add, even if she was flirty, anything that was non-consensual, would be assault.
Sure, of course.
And, you can see that on college campuses, that kind of behavior is a lot more common than people think or would care to admit. There's a lot of these kind of gray area, quote unquote, assault situations, and those things really can be traumatic. In my personal work and my clinical work with clients, I see a lot of clients who have experienced that type of sexual assault, later on in life, in college and adulthood, and the effects are very serious and can be very severe. You can have PTSD symptoms just like somebody who came out of war would have.
Absolutely.
So, these are pretty significant traumas that this person has gone through.
Yeah, I agree. There's a little bit more here, especially about the assault. She also took pictures of them while they were in the process of taking her phone off of her. You can see the man swooping his hand in to take it off of her, and she reported it to the police soon after. But yet, she was never interested in being approached while out drinking. I think part of the reason we were able to bond so deeply was because when we met online and developed slowly over a year. Of course, she could meet someone in real life and flirt with them. Everyone is capable of that, but I do believe it is unlikely that she was flirting with any of them. Sure, I don't think so either. But, I'm sure he was just trying to clarify the story.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes with the email coaching, those things like a little detail like that.
And a lot of times victims in that scenario are often asked, well, what did you do? What were you wearing? How did you present? Were you flirting with them? Did
Yeah.
you isolate yourself? So there can be a lot of victim blaming. So I could see maybe he's trying to clear that up to say she wouldn't even be the type to approach anybody.
Sure. Well, I mean, and the thing is that we're trying to figure out a breakup, right? And in a breakup, sometimes people do inappropriate things.
Right.
Like, they go out and maybe I'm not saying in this case, but sometimes people will go out and flirt behind your back and then something else happens.
Right.
And if something like that did happen, then she would have even more guilt as to what happened to her, right? Right. I'm not trying to blame her or anything like that. I'm just saying that sometimes things like that happen, and so it could have been a part of the equation.
Yeah.
Something to consider. When I saw her a few days later, she was more withdrawn. Of course. I mean, yeah, she was probably in a dissociated kind of state, right? It's so overwhelming. It's horrible. She was still loving, but a lot lesser. I was originally meant to stay with her for a week for our anniversary, but she told me it would be too much for me to stay that long. I stayed 4 days instead. We went out for our anniversary and had fun, and then I left the next day. After that, contact reduced significantly. I wonder if she was depressed. I wonder if she was beating herself up. I wonder if she's saying, I caused this or I made this happen. People blame themselves sometimes.
And there can be a lot of complex feelings. If she was assaulted while in a relationship, there can be, even if she didn't betray him, there can be that feeling of, did I betray my partner with this? There's a lot of complex feelings that can go along with that kind of experience.
She asked to call but didn't follow through. I didn't chase her, though. The next day, we did a video call. During that call, she hid her face and told me she was very sorry but couldn't continue the relationship. When I asked to see her face, she did show me and was crying heavily. She told me to please believe that she loved me, but that she felt she was holding me back in life and wanted me to, quote-unquote, get on with my life. Since then, we've maintained increasingly light contact. I haven't chased her a lot. She isn't cold or rude, but she is emotionally guarded, delays replies, and often apologetic about it. One time she didn't reply for 4 days and then called me out of the blue to apologize and said she was struggling. And that feels authentic, right? Like this feels, now she's got two major traumas. Her friend getting murdered and then trying to revive the friend and then being assaulted.
Yeah.
So we got two major things. We broke up in early October, and it's now late December. Contact has continued to cool, and I've stopped initiating entirely. What's different is that shortly before the breakup, she gave me a card thanking me for, quote-unquote, teaching her what love feels like. And her final anniversary card spoke about gratitude, sticking through highs and lows, and excitement for our future. This written just days before ending the relationship. How should I understand a breakup where love is genuine, but the person leaves primarily out of guilt, shame, and feeling unworthy?
Wow.
What are your thoughts?
This is a massive amount of trauma, and while there are some people who are able to rely on their partner through that, a lot of times it takes a deep kind of rapport. It does sound like there was a lot of deep love and trust there, but these experiences that she's faced, and it sounds like they were pretty recent, just might be too overwhelming for her to feel comfortable being vulnerable around another person or in a relationship with another person. And it sounds like that feeling of being a burden on someone else, it sounded like that in itself was a struggle for her. A lot of times people going through grief, going through, these kind of traumatic symptoms, they have this feeling of, I need to face this on my own and I don't want to push this onto someone else. They feel that guilt for making it someone else's problem. And it's almost like they want to minimize themselves as much as possible and just, hide in a corner, and shutting down is very common. So it sounds to me like she genuinely did not think that she could show up in the relationship the way that she wanted to, and therefore ended it.
I agree. I don't think this is anything like BS, like telling him one thing when it's something else. This feels authentic, and I just think she genuinely is struggling so much with what happened. We have another major trauma and she's very young. Remember, this isn't somebody who's maybe, 35, 40 something years old, that they've had a lot of a life experience and, maybe more kind of grounded with who they are. I mean, she's very young, and to have this happen, two major awful incidents in your life at such a young age, it's a lot for somebody to handle.
Yeah.
And I think she genuinely felt like she couldn't give him what he needed, and she just couldn't show up with what he was wanting, and she probably is going to be depressed and sad and blaming herself. And, even though she could have done absolutely nothing wrong, she's probably going to feel like, I shouldn't have put myself in that position. I shouldn't have gone out that night. Why did I do that? And just beating herself up for what happened to her. So, yeah, in this particular situation, I do think this is the real reason behind it. I don't feel like there's, anything sneaky going on or anything inauthentic or that she's not telling him the truth. I just think that her mental health is not in a good place to be in any kind of relationship right now.
I would agree. And I would even go on to say that the fact that she had built that trust with you over a year of, talking together and building that relationship, meeting in person, building up that trust, I would never minimize that, because that takes a lot for somebody who's been through what she's been through to gain that trust from you. And a lot of times during the grief, you don't think clearly. You can't really see the ways that people are showing up around you. Sometimes when we've had some distance from the trauma and the grief, we look back and reflect back and think, okay, who was really there for me? Who really showed up? And I think in this case, you have shown up for her the best way that you could. And I know, it sounds like you're also quite young and trying to make sense of this and trying to understand trauma and all of these things. And I would encourage you to continue educating yourself on that. It does take, a special kind of person to be able to relate and be compassionate and nurturing to a partner who's been through that kind of trauma. So be aware of that. But also, I would look at it from the viewpoint of you've been able to get this close to this person. You've been able to gain this trust, and I think that's worth something.
Yeah. And I do think she probably really cares about this guy and she probably feels even worse that she's hurting him now because of this too. She's got to work through it the best that she can, and it's going to take time. You showed up for her the best that you could, and she'll have to come to a place where if she can feel like she can do this relationship again, she could reach out to you and maybe take things slow. But I think that this is an authentic situation here where it is about all these things that she's struggling with, these major traumas.
Yep. And I just want you to know that these experiences that she's told you about, they're so overwhelming. And just for some perspective, sometimes in counseling sessions, even on the first session, maybe the therapist is hoping to have some conversation about what the client wants to work on in therapy or their goals. Sometimes if somebody has experienced a trauma severe enough, the entire session will just be them silent on the couch or crying on the couch or unable to really do much or say much or think at all. Sometimes it will just be trying to do one thing to ground them, to help them breathe, just to even be in the session. Yeah. So that's just to give you some perspective of some of the things that she's been through have been very severe, and it takes a lot to work through those things, even in therapy. So I can imagine she feels probably overwhelmed with the idea of being in a relationship, and we have to respect that for now. We have to allow her to go through that process and give her some time to just orient herself for starters.
Yep. All right. So we covered a lot here. Hopefully this one's been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.